Yes, here we all are for the final time in 2022, or if you're watching us on Sunday right before kickoff, the first time in 2023 with all of us. And guys, it is week 17 in the National Football League, the penultimate week. And boy, this is a week where we have a lot to discuss with quarterback news, with injury news, and all that stuff, and playoff scenarios. So this is going to be one thrilling week of games to pick and watch on Thursday, Sunday, and Monday. So you guys all ready to do this thing?
Yes.
Let's go.
Absolutely. We got another great crossover here. Now, Tom and Nick on Empty the Bench, they are very, very close in terms of picks, in terms of their records. And Hank and I are very, very close too. And Hank and I are both coming off a 10-6 week for us last week. So we're trying to build some momentum here in week 17. And again, this is going to be a very interesting week because we have a lot of quarterback news to discuss. And we'll find and a lot of injury news, and it really all starts on Thursday. So you ready to do this?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, and here we go for Week 17 in the National Football League. And Nick, we'll get it going with you for the final time this season. It's an Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, Kaylee Hartung special on Amazon as Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys take on Josh Dobbs and I don't know who else there on the Tennessee Titans, with the Cowboys a 2-touchdown favorite.
Are we sure this line isn't big enough? But Derrick Henry not playing. I think the rest of the offensive line is not playing. I think they're going to go out and
you have at least 8 players who are not playing. By the way, as it comes to playoff scenarios for this, a Dallas loss will secure the NFC East for Philadelphia. I believe a Dallas win keeps them in the hunt for now until Sunday at least, and locks them up with the top wild card seed in the NFC.
See, what's so interesting about this, and I was watching when they were doing the playoff scenarios, they basically said that the Titans and the Jaguars don't have to play their games this week because due to tiebreakers, all that matters is week 18 when the two of them play for the title. But yeah, right. The Titans are not going to show up. Derrick Henry's not going to play, even though they say he's out due to hip injury. How about it's out due to I don't care, and I'm not going to be on the field.
Which is Cowboys... actually pretty devastating news in for the fantasy perspective, considering championship week is here.
I saw you two go back and forth on that in the chat the other day. Mike Vrabel doesn't care about your fantasy team.
Yeah, they won't care when I pick the Jaguars next week. How about that?
You think he cares about the Jaguars?
No.
But yeah,
I mean, he might care if they get eliminated off of 7 straight season losses to end their season.
It's a good point. But what I will say, what?
And I was gonna say, might be a little bit hot take. If that happens, Mike Vrabel enters next season on the hot seat.
He could get fired, maybe, but
no, I don't know if you come back from 7 straight losses and
no, you don't.
I don't know that you.
If they lose this week and next week, he should be fired.
He should be canned.
He's a good coach, but he's a good coach, but that's a fireable offense.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's not to say that this whole season is his fault. I mean, look, there's a reason that they fired John Robinson. I mean, was the timing of the firing strange? But when you look at John Robinson's track record, was it undeserved? I can't say that it was. I mean, not after all you gave up for Julio Jones and then you panicked just to get rid of A.J. Brown and got a terrible return. That's all you need to know, and I haven't even scratched the surface of some of his terrible moves.
I mean, also, you're not starting Malik Wills also, which is another weird move considering your old situation, but I don't think this line is big enough considering Derrick Henry is not playing.
And I have a feeling there's going to be an alternate universe where we might not have this conversation because he tried a tight end sweep instead of just give it to Derrick Henry, which, you know, may have had a bigger impact on the whole NFC South or AFC South race than you think. And I think you guys know which game I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, let's get to the lines. So the 14 is not big enough. Take the money.
I think it's pretty obvious on this one. The question is going to be, how does the Titans defense hold up against Dak and company? No. Cowboys lock up the top NFC wildcard seed to take the money.
Hank, what do you think?
Can I quote Tom Petty for you guys?
Yes, please do.
The Titans are free falling. Give me the Cowboys.
Do I want to be the lone wolf to start?
Don't do it. This is not the.
No, you know what? Because I'll tell you why. Because
The
are the
line.
Cowboys? I mean, are the Cowboys good enough to win by more than 14? Though.
This is the freaking Titans who are playing without
I
8 players.
understand, but we're also talking about the Cowboys too here. But you know what? I am not going to do it. I will agree with you guys and go with a clean sweep in game number 1. But I'm going to be biting my fingernails off in this one because
Remember, this is not against the Eagles.
I understand.
I
But, I mean, remember they were doing this again. They did this at home against the Texans.
I mean, granted, I wouldn't bet this game anyway. I wouldn't bet this game with this line, considering, as you said, the Cowboys and their reputation. But
This is a crapshoot game.
No, I know. I'm just trying to play. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate there. I know how much of a mess the Titans are, and the fact that they're going to Josh Dobbs instead of Malik Willis. I mean, and again, you guys all said it too. It's really all about Week 18. I had said that in one of my ETP Sports Minutes this week that for them it's really all about Week 18. So, but I just worry because I don't know if the Cowboys are 15-point good enough against anybody. But I'll do it here. I will take the Cowboys to win and cover in the final game on Amazon Prime this week. And by the way, this year, I should say. And by the way, good job by Al, Kirk, and Kaylee on their first year together on Amazon.
they had to overcome a lot of shitty games.
I know, and that'll be a reason to watch to see what kind of comments he makes here in game number 1.
Well, I was gonna say, wait a minute. He overcame the shitty games and the shit that came out of his mouth.
Oh God,
that's what we'll go with here. So it's a clean sweep for all of us in game number 1. Tom, it's a Jason Benetti, Brady Quinn, Megan O'Leary special on the NFL on Fox. And yes, it is a special, not only for them, but it's because it is Colt McCoy and the Arizona Cardinals taking on Desmond Ridder and the Falcons. And the Falcons are a 3-point home favorite.
Oh my God, this is special, all right. It's special because this is a game that means absolutely nothing when it comes to the playoff picture.
Nothing. I mean,
look at all the failure.
Absolutely nothing. I think all the teams are even out at this point. Let me double check.
The ironic part about that sound clip you guys just used.
What?
I don't even, technically speaking, I don't even call the Falcons a failure because they weren't even. Failure would mean you expected them to be better.
Hey, I said before the season started, and Hank, you can back me up on this. I said the Falcons going to this year were going to be actually Tom and Nick. You guys can back me up on this. I said in our football preview show that they were going to be the worst team in the NFL this year, and you know what? They have totally proved me wrong. Arthur Smith should get some consideration. He won't win it, but he should get some consideration for Coach of the Year for what he's done with that roster.
Mariota played way better than we expected. Also,
absolutely. Yeah, and then he morphed back into reality.
And I think Desmond Ridder, he's not great. But he's passing the test.
So young kid. I mean,
young kid, exactly.
A tough spot for him.
Yeah. But as far as this matchup goes, I mean, my only thought on it is this is an absolute crapshoot. Just for the sake of that they have D-Hop and Hollywood Brown and have the more experienced team, I'll just take the Cardinals as an upset. I really have no thoughts on this one.
Wow.
I'll go next. When I look at this game, it's a West Coast to East Coast game for the Cardinals. Early start time, 1 p.m. Eastern there. It's a long trip for them to come cross country for a game that means absolutely nothing. I'm going to say Desmond Ridder gets his first win as a starter. So give me the Falcons minus the 3 to win and cover in Atlanta.
Hank?
I did a coin flip, and this was really the only basis I have on picking this game because they both suck. Give me the Falcons.
This is bad. I mean, you have the battle of quarterbacks that no one knows. I think. Who's the receiver for the Cardinals? Why am I forgetting his name all of a sudden? I think Hop's going to demand out at some point. And why their head coach hasn't been fired yet, I don't know.
Yeah, he's going to be next. Kingsbury's next.
Yeah, he'll be on the list, especially if you saw the stories that came out this week about how they're not liking him over there.
I've been against the Cardinals all year. I'm not changing that. Take the money.
All right, so that means I'm going to be the lone
wolf in game 2.
All right, hang on. Go with the underdog.
Oh,
There you go. But I think a good reason, if you want to watch this game, watch it because Jason Benetti's going to be doing his first NFL game. That'll be cool. And we like Brady Quinn. And Tom, I know you know Megan Levy, so that's what we'll watch in game number 2. Hank, it's a great. What's that? I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, hey Johnny, can I before you intro, can I intro a little bit here for this next
Floor's
game?
yours. Go for it.
All right, hold on 1 second. I think it's time, gentlemen. But why did this thing pop up back up? Okay, there we go. Gentlemen, it's time.
Oh
It's
boy.
that time once again.
Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, let's ride.
And I hope you recognize what's going on in the background there. What that is.
wait a minute. Was that the statement by the Broncos owner?
Broncos country, let's ride.
Yes, that was the statement from the Broncos owner informing them of informing the public. Oh God, it's looping. About Nathaniel Hackett's firing.
I saw that statement. I don't know who I was talking to when I was talking to Nick, and all of a sudden that broke, and I'm like, what? The owner actually broke it himself.
Yeah. So
Let me grab that line. There we go.
yeah, there you go. Okay, Johnny. Before we give our thoughts, you may intro this again.
Well, it's a Greg Gumbel, Adam Archuleta, AJ Ross special on CBS. Those Denver Broncos goes to Kansas City to take on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And the Chiefs 12.5-point favorites, Hank.
Oh boy. Broncos country, let's rock. Yeah. You really think I could say that with a straight face?
No.
Chiefs are at home. And can I just say one thing though regarding the Nathaniel Hackett firing?
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie, low key, I'm gonna miss that guy only because it was kind of hilarious making fun of so many of his terrible calls. I mean, you should have the red flag should have been there after that week 1 game against the Seattle Seahawks.
I mean,
You mean not the 51 points that Baker Mayfield put up this past week?
no,
when-
the Seahawks game was pretty bad. That was when you realized he could not. That was when you realized that you or I could manage a play clock better than.
But I
Nathaniel
think-
Hackett.
But I think they've hit the peak, the top of the humiliation tree when Russell Wilson throws an interception and Patrick Starr, of all people, is roasting you. That's not what he wanted to cook.
That's not what he wanted to cook.
You're pretty much about to win against the Indianapolis Colts. All you have to do is just run out the clock. What do? You call for a pass. Russell Wilson throws an interception. Colts come back, tie, and then win the game.
I have a few things to really demonstrate what I think about
That being
this.
said, let me just say this.
Okay.
Was Nathaniel Hackett a big emphasis on the first syllable of his last name? Yes. But were the Broncos' problems also way beyond him? And was Russell Wilson also part of the problem? Both can be true. Both can be true.
But it goes to, and I think I said in my minute, and you said it in your review and preview reaction piece, Hank, about, yeah, not all of this is Hackett's fault. However,
it's
and
not.
I kind of said this on ETB, Morgasen, that, and I'm not saying, oh, no blame should go to the players, it should all be on the coaches, but they were more expendable firing Hackett than they are getting rid of Russell.
245 reasons why Russell Wilson was going nowhere.
Exactly.
I mean,
So-
you could, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You could blame the Walmart family for that.
Yeah. But that's now going to be the issue that they have to deal with. Is they're going to have to ride this shit out with Wilson. They're going to have to.
I'll give you 3 sounds that sum up this whole situation, okay?
Congratulations, dickweeds. You suck.
And I mean, you're sounding the alarms right now in Denver, not because of the altitude, but because the way the team is being run.
I'm going to give you more reasons, by the way, Nick. There's actually more additional reasons per year. 107 million reasons in 2023.
You're talking about dead cap.
I'm talking about the dead cap. That's That's the dead cap they have to hit for
Well,
cutting Russell.
Okay, I need to say one thing because fans on Twitter are saying, "Just cut him," and I'm like, "Yeah, Denver's going to sit on a dead cap of $107 million." No, they're not.
No way. Hank is. What do you think, Hank, in terms of the pick?
Yeah, no, give me the Chiefs.
So, Tom, I know I'm probably going to steal your thunder in saying this, but when you look at Kansas City here, they still have a chance at the top seed in the conference, and the Broncos are just a mess. I mean, what a combination. And going to Kansas City, who's been playing better as of late. I mean, they had the big win against Seattle last week.
However, Johnny,
Yep.
there's a however in there. They actually played a few weeks ago, week 14. Do you remember what the final score was?
Oh, I know, because I lost that one. I lost that
34-28. Kansas City didn't cover that time.
And they jumped out to a 27 or 28-0 lead.
And they let the Broncos come back.
27-0, I think it was, and they rallied back. But I don't think that happens on the road in this spot, and I don't think they get the coach firing boost here. I think they're going to blow them out again. I mean, the only question is going to be, I don't think Kansas City is going to go for 51 again, like the Rams did, but something like 35-13. I think is the way to go here. So Kansas City minus 12.5 for me in this one.
Yeah, the Chiefs are going to put up 50 points. I think the Broncos are in such a bad place. The firing is actually doing worse because that whole locker room is disconnected. I think the whole locker room is disconnected from Russell Wilson. Because
Russell Wilson has lost the locker room.
Because of that contract. 2, because of the way he's acting. Maybe if he would stay out of a Subway commercial or a clothing apparel commercial, maybe his teammates would actually like him as a human being.
Well, let me ask one more question because we're talking about his firing. We're talking about the embarrassment on the Nick game. Do you think that the fight on the sidelines also contributed to Hackett's firing?
You can't blame coaches for fights on the sideline. If players decide to fight on the sideline, that's on them.
I'm talking about, of course, about Brett Rippey and getting into it with one of the offensive linemen.
But I think also giving up 51 points to the Rams, who just have like Baker Mayfield and a bunch of nothing after.
If they scored 51, what are the Chiefs going to put up?
All right,
well, they won't put up that much because if it's a blowout in the fourth quarter, Patrick Mahomes won't be out there in the fourth quarter.
First of all, if this game is a blowout at the half, you might not see him in the second half.
Something to watch, and that's something to watch here when you look at these lines. As big as they are,
that's why. Even though that's why I'll go with the Chiefs. I'll take the money. However, if we're talking about true bets, I'm staying away from this game. Even with the temptation of a blowout, just the fact that Patrick Mahomes might sit the second half, I don't think I can risk that.
Just from a standpoint, I would take the money just because it's a high-powered offense against nobody.
Correct.
It's David versus Goliath.
But that is something to watch, though, as you come down the stretch here. Some of those double-digit games could be something to watch if they decide to pull their starters, and then you get a late fourth quarter rally from, let's say in this case, the Broncos. But I don't think it's going to be the case here. I think Nick made a good point there. David versus Goliath. It's going to be a clean sweep for all of us. Kansas City minus the 12.5 in here, guys. It's Andrew. What's that, Tom?
Sorry, John. One more thing. Actually, for Buffalo to clinch home field advantage and the number 1 seed, they need to win, and Kansas City needs to lose. So that's not happening. So it seems like week 18, AFC number 1 seed's coming down to week 18.
Yeah, I think I don't think either of that's going to happen this week.
Essentially, KC holds the tiebreaker for the 1 seed. Essentially,
if it's a tiebreaker, would it go to the? Wouldn't it go to the type, like who won their matchup, or is it a different tiebreaker in that regard? Because Buffalo beat them, remember, earlier in Kansas City earlier in the season.
Oh, that's right. So Buffalo has the tiebreaker,
and that's why it's so big. You might be having to go through Buffalo in the AFC Championship game this year if it is indeed a Kansas City. It's a Chief Bill AFC Championship game that's going to be played in Buffalo because of that. So something to watch as we come down the stretch here in the AFC. Tom, it's an Andrew Catalon, James Lofton, Aditi Kinkabella special on the NFL on CBS. It is the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the kind of red hot, or better playing Houston Texans in Houston, with the Jaguars a 4-point favorite.
Does anyone care about this game?
Technically, no, because as Johnny alluded to earlier, the Texans and Jaguars game all comes down to that division all comes down to Week 18 when they
The
face off.
Jaguars don't have to play this game. If they could just say, "I'm done."
Actually, can I take this game first? I know I went to you first here, Tom, but
Yeah, go ahead.
That's you know what? That's why I think there could be even a point made here that the Jaguars maybe rest some guys in the second half of this game because it really doesn't mean much. And when you look at these two teams, the Texans have been playing well down the stretch here, and they always play the Jaguars really tough. If you remember earlier in the year when these two met in Jacksonville, Houston actually won that game. So I'm going to, at the bare minimum, take the Texans +4. And if I wanted to take a step further, I will take the upset special here, and I will take the Texans +4. And what that's going to do is it might actually hurt their draft.
I was just going to say that
with
means
the Chicago Bears. It might hurt their draft
I
order
think,
odds.
I think Johnny, if the Texans win and Bears lose this week, I think the Bears take the #1 pick now.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But I don't think the Bears are going to be going for a quarterback. I mean, the only thing you would worry about is if there would be a team that would trade up with them to get that #1 pick because it is a very quarterback-heavy draft. But I will grab, at the bare minimum here, guys, I'm going to take the Texans +4 in this matchup.
I definitely got all your points, Johnny, and yeah, I could definitely see that element of madness being made when it comes to this NFL week. However, there's the only thing that I will counter with is I don't think with all the momentum the Jaguars have and all the negative momentum that the Titans have, I don't think I want to be entering that Week 18 matchup with the Titans coming off a loss to one of the worst teams in football.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I got to take the money on this one. I got to go Jags.
I mean, I see it as the same way, kind of, that if the Jaguars lose, I think that's just a bad omen going into their title matchup against the Titans. I mean, let's be clear though, the Titans are not God's gift to football this year. The way they started and the way they finished. What did they started with a great record and then they lost 7 in a row? I mean, like it's.
But I think considering the Jaguars and the direction they want to go, and the Texans, well, the possibility of losing one of these their choice of quarterback, because I don't know what the Bears are going to do when it comes to their draft pick. I think for the sake of both teams, you need the Jaguars to win it.
Yeah, you need the Jaguars to win it, so I would take them to cover. It would be not a good sight if they lost.
Hank, I know you've been a big Jaguar guy this year. What do you think?
And that hasn't changed. Trevor Lawrence is him. Give me the Jags.
Well
Jaguars
said.
the Jaguars are just making what's his face? Urban Meyer look like the worst coach in NFL history.
You mean he's climbing up the pole instead of down it?
Yeah.
Well, let's hope then for 2017.
You couldn't really get worse.
Jaguars win. I'll be the lone. Let's hope for a 20-17 Jaguars win then in my case. So I'll be the lone wolf in this one, but the other 3 guys will go the other way with the Jaguars. Tom, it's a Joe Davis, Daryl Moose Johnston, Pam Oliver special on Fox as the New Orleans Saints go to Philadelphia to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, as of now, we don't know if it's going to be Gardner Minshew. We saw Jalen Hurts as of Thursday did return to practice. So we'll see. It could be Hurts. It could be Gardner Minshew back under center again in Philadelphia, as the Eagles are a 6-point favorite at home in this one, Tom.
Okay, so the latest update I have is Jalen Hurts did some throwing today, but doesn't exactly, it's just throwing. The only reason that they might want to start him this week, which leads us to playoff scenarios. Time for playoff scenarios to come back into it. For them, it is win, and they have the #1 seed. That's all they need to do. All they need to do is win, or for Dallas to be upset tonight by the Titans, which is not happening.
And by the way, they could have won last week with Gardner Minshew. It was just bad play down the stretch why they lost.
Now, there are also ways in which they can clinch the #1 seed with a loss. They can, if they met, correction. They can clinch the #1 seed with a tie and either a loss or tie by the Vikings, or if Dallas loses or ties, the Vikings lose and the 49ers lose or tie.
Just win the damn game.
Honestly, I'm going to say just win the damn game. And also, considering that technically they still have some form of life, I have to mention it. A loss to the Eagles here for the Saints, or a win by the Bucks in the Bucks-Panthers game, which we'll talk about later, and it's over for the Saints.
I mean, are we really like discussing this game in full detail? The Saints are one of the worst teams in football this year.
Take the money.
Yeah. I mean, and just because I've already talked about it, take the money. The Saints are one of the worst teams in football. Their quarterback situation is a mess. Take the money.
The whole team is a mess.
Hank, what do you think?
Yeah, take the money. I agree. The Saints, I mean, look, good win for them. They beat the Browns, though. So, like, and like I said, it's the Browns, and there's no way they should even still have hope at this point. Give me the Eagles.
Apparently, Alvin Kamara is going after the media also. So, like,
Such a weird
How
strategy,
about
right?
he shuts the fuck up and actually plays like he should have in the last few seasons?
How about-
Because he's had a sucky season.
how about less lawsuits and more yardage on the
Sounds like
field?
somebody who had him in fantasy this year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Actually,
I can read mine. I don't do fantasy, but I can read fantasy minds.
actually, no. But Nick, you're right. And actually, we don't know if he's going to see all of next season, considering he's got that lawsuit coming against him.
I mean, can he stop attacking people and punching them in the face?
So let's just look at this game for 1 second here. Do I take anything out of the Saints defense playing well last week against the Browns?
No.
No, because I think the Eagles are a much better offensive team. But that's why I'm going to agree with you guys. I'm going to take the Eagles to win and cover in this one. And there's also one other interesting nugget regarding this game. So you talked about the Eagles having a chance to clinch the number 1 seed in the NFC, right? But here's another interesting fun fact. The Eagles, with a win, would also raise the value of the Saints' first-round pick, which Philadelphia owns.
Oh my
Kind of
God.
an yeah, the draft order this year, and I'm sure we'll spend plenty of time on this in the
Kinda screwed
offseason.
up
The
because
draft
of all the
order is
trades.
very, very interesting because the good teams, or the teams that are at least competing for a playoff spot, actually do have the high draft picks because of all the trades and stuff.
Right. The Seahawks have the number 3 pick because of the Broncos.
It's crazy, right? I mean,
I
the Lions, think, have a
hate
top
that.
pick who are battling for a playoff spot. The Seahawks, I think, have a top pick and they're
Johnny.
battling. So
Johnny Nick, a lot of that comes from last year's draft, which we were live for.
yeah, and I can't wait I don't want to look ahead to the draft, but this year's draft is going to be great too because we have it's a very quarterback heavy draft as well. Maybe not, we don't know how dynamite these guys are, but it is a quarterback.
They said there's a lot of quarterbacks, but it's not the best quarterback class.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how good Bryce Young's going to be in the pros.
I
don't
think
know
people-
Jay Stroud.
I think people are way overvaluing Bryce Young. I really do.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what. No, I mean, you don't want to say, it's an Alabama quarterback, but look how many Alabama quarterbacks either there or at one time were Alabama QBs are actually doing well in the NFL. Tua, hopefully he can still play. Jalen Hurts, who was there at Alabama before he transferred. I mean, there's a bunch of guys out there. I mean, Mac Jones did have a good first year, not a good second year, but he was there in Alabama. So, I mean, there's a bunch of them out there right now. So we'll see. But we're all going to agree here. We'll take the Eagles to win and cover against the Saints.
And
Hank,
take
it's a
the NFC.
Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, Melanie Collins special on the NFL and CBS. It is our New York Football Giants at home at MetLife Stadium to take on Nick Foles, Jeff Saturday, and the Indianapolis Colts with the Giants 5.5-point home favorites.
So, Johnny.
I'm calling both games.
Yes.
So, let's say there is a laundry list of possibilities for the Giants to get into the postseason.
Well, just all right, but we go for it. Yep.
All right. Easiest way is a win. Number 2, a tie, a Seattle loss or tie, and a Washington loss or tie. A Giants tie, a Seattle tie, or a Detroit loss or tie, or a Giants tie, a Washington loss or tie, a Detroit loss or tie, or Green Bay loss or tie, or just a loss by Seattle and Washington, or losses by Seattle, Detroit, and a loss or tie by Green Bay, or losses by Washington, Detroit, and Green Bay.
Okay, forget all that. Let's just
The
win.
easiest way is to win in your in.
Win.
Oy, that was too
Hank,
many.
go for it. What do you think?
This is one of the few times where I actually will feel somewhat confident in picking my beloved New York Football Giants and winning this one. And I'll probably get more into it on our next episode of Big Blue Avenue on this week. Sorry, I know we're recording technically before this, but
That's okay.
by the time we release this, you will have already seen that analysis. Again, sorry for the shameless self-promotion, but
Hey, I watch the show every week.
yes, you do. I know all you guys in this
Absolutely.
in the studio do. So give me the Giants. I think this is the one winnable opponent. I even said this like after the Detroit game. This was the one game on the schedule that you could say with confidence was winnable. And I don't care that Nick Foles might be undefeated against the Giants. That's based off of his time with the Eagles, and those Eagles teams were so much better than this Colts team. I mean, let's be honest. Any Eagles team within the past decade could be better than one that's now being run by Jeff Saturday and Irsay is the owner, and not to mention what's his name? Is it Chris Ballard?
Chris Ballard is the GM. Yeah.
That guy's gonna get fired after the season, by the way. But
No, actually, why am I forgetting the owner's name again? Irsay came out in an interview on ESPN and said that he's got his job through next year.
Well,
I'm sorry. What?
Happens. Wait, Nick. I'll believe that when it happens because he said the same thing, pretty similar thing about Frank Reich, and he said his job was
no, but in that
wait a minute.
In that same interview, he came out and said, I gave Reich the extension too early without knowing if I was going to keep him.
Well, all right. I mean, I'm just saying, though, he said his job. I mean, there was a report, I think it was from Rappaport, that said that his job was safe, and then 10 days later, he fired him. So I don't know what changed in those 10 days. But as far as this matchup goes, look, last week I was high on the Giants to at least cover, maybe have a chance against the Vikings. They didn't play that bad against Minnesota. So I like that. Colts are coming off a short week. They have no Jonathan Taylor, so they really don't have much on offense. I think this is actually one of the few times that I say the Giants are actually in a very favorable spot. Giants win and cover at MetLife.
Tom?
Get in.
Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah, go for it, Tom.
I have a one-liner for the end, so go.
Okay. Oh, you're gonna have a one-liner. All right. So, if that's the case, because I have something I really want to say. So you have all these possibilities, right? You have all these possibilities. I mean, even just the fact, even though they lost to the Vikings, their chances still went up from 91 to like 92% because somehow Detroit managed to lose to Carolina and everything seemed to go in their favor. However, now here's the thing. We talk about Philadelphia. We talk about Jalen Hurts. They play Philadelphia next week in the season finale. Jalen Hurts being hurt. They might have lock up the number 1 seed. Here's the thing. If the Giants don't win this week, considering what Philadelphia did in the COVID 2020 season, where they had that shitty performance on Sunday Night Football and that cost the Giants a play, you don't think if the Eagles have a chance to keep the Giants out of the playoffs, they'll play all their starters next week just to say fuck you?
Tom, you know what's funny about that? When the injury to Hurts happened, the first thing I thought of was this week was the possibility of the Week 18 game actually meaning something.
Right. So and regardless, my point was, even if Minshew plays, you don't think if they have the opportunity to knock the Giants out of the playoffs Week 18, they'll still play AJ Brown and they'll still play Miles Sanders and all of them, just because they want to say screw you to the Mara family and screw you to all the Giants fans? That's why I said, and I even said it in the weeks leading in because I wasn't confident against the Vikings. This game is must win. They have to win this game. You cannot, even if you manage to get into the playoffs because of all the different, loss scenarios with all the other teams, even if you end up losing that wild card round to, say, San Fran or Minnesota, you can't enter the playoffs off of a loss to Indianapolis. Your best scenario is, if you enter the playoffs off of a loss, is if that Eagles-Giants game next week doesn't matter and both teams play their bench players. That's why, and considering all the shit that you guys just said with the Colts, Giants, take the money.
No.
And
since this is the last time I get to do it this season, I can do it.
No.
Wow. All right.
Oh.
How many times have you been able to lock the Giants this year?
I don't know that I'm that confident that I'm willing to lock them, but I agree with your sentiments for the most part.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, this probably is one of the more favorable games to lock them in. But yeah, Nick, what do you think?
So let's see if I can put this in terms. So this, Hank, you'll enjoy this because Nick Federa's not here, so I have to pick up the slack for him when he's not here. So,
Oh boy.
we all know Nick Foles is one of my favorite quarterbacks. Over the years, he won his Super Bowl, thankfully, because of the shit he took in Philadelphia. Wait. So, one of my favorite nicknames in all of sports, by the way, Big Dick Nick, by the way.
I wonder why.
Well, we all know the story. I don't have to rehash that.
No,
But I
don't know
will.
that reason,
But, well, it's neither here nor there. The reason I bring that up is because we need to stretch this point spread out. Okay? We're going to stretch this point spread out. The Giants are going to win by a lot more than 5.5.
Oh, wow. Okay, then.
They're going to win by a lot more than 5.5. The Colts are an embarrassing football team. Jeff Saturday should not be the head coach. He will not be the head coach, but I shouldn't say that because Jim Irsay will just come back and say, this is who I want because I don't have to pay somebody else.
Oh, I think he'll pay somebody.
But yes, we're going to stretch out that spread. Yes, I'm pulling in Nick Federa. We're stretching out the spread because Big Dick Nick is going to be flaccid in this game against the Giants.
Whoa!
Wow. Okay, then.
Okay, can I throw something out there? Just a random possibility.
Wow.
Yes. Take the money, by the way.
Clean sweep there.
Next week. I'm sorry. Next year for the Colts. Cliff Kingsbury or Nathaniel Hackett as head coach, and like Derek Carr as the
I was just going to say that.
I'll say this: the name's been floated around. It was actually floated around right before this season too, and I think he's still going to be in play. I still think Jim Harbaugh from Michigan is in play for Indy.
I would rather be at Michigan than Indy.
Well, look, if they pay him the money, he'll come.
I mean, granted, the money's sake, yeah. But if we're talking about prestige and good team and stuff, I would rather.
No, I understand. Well, I mean, money, I think, tops all that. But there was talk about it last year, and I know he stayed at Michigan, but eventually he's not going to be able to stay. He's not going to stay at Michigan forever.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will.
I think he's still got it.
I think he's tarnished his reputation in the NFL because of his attitude.
I don't know. I think there's somebody. I think he's going to at least get some interview possibilities for some of these.
Oh, well,
there's going to be a lot of openings. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, let's look at it. I mean, we said Arizona probably is going to open up. I still wouldn't be surprised if Josh McDaniels is out in Vegas.
You're forgetting another name that's out there putting together his all-star staff already.
That is
Sean Payton.
Oh, Sean Payton too. Yeah, that is true. That did come out this week.
He's going to get calls first before anybody else. I'll tell you that. I
agree with that, but I still think Harbaugh is going to get some consideration. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to enter the league, but I think he's going to get some more consideration. That's what I would say. But we'll save that for the offseason. As far as this game at MetLife, we're all in agreement. Giants minus the 5.5.
Hey, Hank, you didn't expect that coming out of my mouth, did you?
No, I was pretty surprised.
Well, Nick, we ended there with you. We'll start with you here, and I'm curious to get your thoughts here. It's an Adam Amin, Mark Schlereth, Christina Pink special on Fox. Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns take on Carson Wentz and the Washington Commanders from FedEx Field. And the Commanders, hey, it's an important game for the Commanders. It's not really that much when you look at the Commanders side. They're laying 2.5 at home in this spot. Yes, Tom, I saw that. Go for it.
Okay. Washington clinches a playoff berth with the following scenario: a Washington win, Seattle loss, Detroit loss, and a Green Bay loss or tie. If this happens, gentlemen, we have history. If that scenario happens, then for the first time in NFL history, all 4 of the division's teams will make it into the postseason.
Oh my God!
A Seattle loss, Detroit loss, and a Green Bay loss or tie will lock playoff spots up for both the New York Giants and the Washington Commanders.
Are we really going to trust Carson Wentz?
No, but I could definitely see those other scenarios playing out.
Well,
again, I can't stand Deshaun Watson and the Browns. If I could do a pity party on top of Deshaun Watson, I would. I can't.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. Did you say party?
You're having too much fun with your new soundboard over there.
Yes.
This is a crapshoot too. I know, Johnny, like it's an important game. I don't like Carson Wentz. Deshaun Watson is the better matchup. Upset.
Oh, I totally disagree. I look at the way that Deshaun played in this year since coming back. Cleveland scored 10, 13, and 10 points in its last 3 games with Watson, and the Washington defense I think is going to pose a huge problem.
Carson Wentz can't put up points.
Well, I don't think this is even going to be about Carson Wentz, Nick. I think this is going to be about Brian Robinson Jr., the running back. I think he's going to have a big game against this bad Cleveland defense. I'm going to take, and I'm only laying 2.5 points. So even if it's a field goal game, I'm going to take the Commanders to win and cover at FedEx Field. And again, this is not about Watson versus Wentz. This is Watson against that defense. And let's be honest, Deshaun Watson has stunk since he's come back. And I thought he was going to have a good game against the Saints, and he was awful last week. And I think it continues in this spot. Commanders minus 2.5.
Carson Wentz is not a runaway, though.
No, but that's why they're only laying 2.5. So I'm only asking the Commanders to win by 3 points.
That might be a tough one.
16-13, Commanders win against the Browns.
You'd be lucky if they put up that many points.
Well, yeah, maybe I'm asking for a little something extra. Hank, go for it. What do you think?
I really wanted it. I was tempting the idea of taking the Cleveland Browns, but even with Carson Wentz, I'm still that team's a dumpster fire. I can't do it. Give me Washington.
Right.
I will give Nick Morgasen credit on this. I can see the Browns winning. However, if the Browns do win, it will not be because of Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson has looked very rusty, like we feared, like a quarterback who hasn't played for 2 years. That offense just, and did I not call it that I think that he does not fit in that system? And I think so far he's showing he does not.
They're a running back heavy system. He wants to throw the football.
Exactly. You can't screw over Nick Chubb you can't screw over Nick Chubb and have
Actually, that's another thing I wanted to bring up. If you want to go running back versus running back with the Browns, you might lose that.
Well, I see that's true, but I think Tom's right though. What he's saying too with Watson.
But no, I am right. I am right when I was talking about with Watson. But again, when you're talking about Chubb versus Robinson, it's the $64,000 question, and I think this game comes down to is that Browns defense. Can that Browns defense hold up? And I think Brian Robinson Jr. is a very sneaky, very sneakily, as you mentioned, Johnny, he could have a great game. Fantasy owners who are looking for a key to a championship, Brian Robinson Jr. would be one of my recommendations for this week. And yeah, you know what? I can't see. The Commanders are the ones who are fighting for a playoff spot, are going to try and have more life. Now, granted, as you said, Nick, Carson Wentz is not going to really be the answer. But if all the other pieces step up, they can at least try and get in and bring it to at least week 18. So, you know what? This is another one of those games where I would not bet. I would stay far away. However, I'll take the money on this one.
Wow.
Now, if the Commanders were laying 3.5, I think this would be a different story. And
yeah.
Also, Deshaun Watson last week against the Saints, 15 of 31 for 135 yards. Oof.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I mean, that's what you get when you don't play for 2 years. Not that I'm making excuses for the guy, but
and that's the thing too. I think this thing's really going to be more about next year with Watson because I think we all predicted. We've said it on our shows, we said it on specials that this year was a throwaway. Yeah.
Why do you think the agent purposely planned $1 million salary for this year? He knew that Watson was not going anywhere or was not going to play well. It was all planned.
Yeah, and so we'll see. I mean, if you want to go Kevin Stefanski versus Ron Rivera, if you want to take the coaching matchup, that would also be maybe a better play.
Kevin Stefanski, Ron Rivera.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
the thing that Tom
Titanic Ron. That's I think we'll roll with here. So the Commanders minus 2.5 in this one. Tom, it's the great Kenny Albert along with Jonathan Vilma and Shannon Spake on the NFL on Fox. And NFC North matchup with the Chicago Bears taking on the Detroit Lions, with the Lions a 6-point favorite at home at Ford Field.
As I've mentioned, Detroit is involved in scenarios when it comes to the wild cards with the NFC, with the Giants and the Commanders. They're both hoping for a Detroit loss this week. As far as their perspective looking, obviously a win will keep them alive, keep them with the Commanders when it comes with the chase for the final seed in the NFC. They do have an elimination scenario. I'm taking this from SB Nation. The Detroit Lions can be eliminated this weekend with a loss to the Chicago Bears, coupled by a win from the Commanders. But if the Lions win or Washington loses, Detroit is still alive entering the final week of the season. And as we mentioned,
Wow.
as we mentioned earlier, if the Bears, I don't have this in front of me, but I think we said earlier, if the Bears lose and Texans win, the Bears move up over the Texans for the number 1 pick in the draft. So this is going to be really interesting. However, let me make it clear. The Lions showed last week they are a very flawed team. They had the opportunity to hurt the Giants and Commanders' chances and get into the playoffs, and they devastated themselves with a loss to Sam Darnold and the Panthers of all teams. That loss last week was devastating. However, the Lions still have a lot of momentum. They still have a high-powered offense. They are still, they're a young team that is showing signs of life. And they're definitely going to want to, they're definitely going to bring it into week 18. They are definitely, showing that they will continue their momentum. That last week was just a bad loss. And obviously the Bears have nothing to play for. The Bears have no signs of life. Take the money. Go with the Lions on this one to bring their chase to week 18. And this shows that there's the possibility that next year they will play even better.
That's all fair. Nick?
Yeah, the Lions are the much better team in this matchup. The Bears are going nowhere. They have a lot to figure out. Their CEO and their president just retired, I think, after almost 40 years on the job. And now they're talking about Kevin Warren, the Big Ten commissioner, possibly taking the job or being at least the head candidate, which I thought was a little bizarre that he's the head candidate. Justin Fields has a lot to prove also going into the offseason and into the next year. Yeah, the Lions are going to win this game. And I think they're going to be a tough opponent next year. I think this team is growing. I'm Ron Sambrand. I've been saying it all year. They need to do everything in their power to make sure this man stays in the organization to be their top receiver. Take the money on this one.
Thanks.
You know what? Is it possible I can be the lone wolf?
Oh, what? Wait, what?
What?
Yep. I am going to go upset special. Now, that doesn't mean I necessarily think the Lions will lose, but...
Oh, okay. I was going to say, what?
It's a divisional game. You never know what could happen there. Would not be surprised if Detroit actually had another bad letdown, but I still think they win, but the Bears are going to give them a scare. So give me Chicago for the upset special, even though I don't actually have them winning.
So he thinks the Lions are going to win. He's just taking the Bears plus the 6. And I'll tell you what, the Bears have the kind of recipe that could do that, because what was the big thing that killed them that killed the Lions last week? It was the Panthers' running attack. And you saw Deontay Foreman run for 165 yards. Chuba Hubbard ran for 125. We all know how much Justin Fields loves running the ball as a quarterback. So that could be one thing to watch here too. I'm actually in agreement with Hank. I say the Lions win, but I am going to take the Bears plus the 6. And I think it's going to keep it a little bit of a closer game. So something like 31-27, something along those lines here. When I look at it, I think it'll be a strong offensive showing, but I think that running attack is something to watch here too. So, yeah, Lions win, Bears cover. That's what I'm going to go with here. And the Bears have sneakily covered a couple of weeks ago, that game against the Eagles they covered, but I think it'll be a closer game, but I still think the Lions come out on top. So we're all in agreement the Lions are going to win, but Hank and I are going to differ in that we're both going to take the Bears plus the 6 at Ford Field.
Fair enough.
Iron Eagle, Charles Davis, Evan Washburn special on CBS. Nick, it's the Miami Dolphins who went winless in the month of December, taking on the New England Patriots and Foxborough with the Pats a field goal favorite.
This game actually, believe it or not, has a lot of meaning to it. The Patriots are still in. The Jets are technically still in. They have to win both games. We'll get to that scenario.
And the Dolphins have some negative momentum. Now, let me go through the scenarios before we talk about the big news, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah.
Miami clinches a playoff berth with here's what they need. Number 1, a Miami win and a New York Jets loss or tie, or Miami ties, Jets lose, Steelers lose or tie. On the flip, a loss to the Dolphins here eliminates the Patriots. However, if you notice, the Patriots are a -3 favorite. And that not only does that have to do with the fact that it is a home game for the Patriots,
There's no Tua.
the Miami Dolphins officially will not have Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback, as he has suffered, as it turns out, a third concussion in 3 months.
Self-reported, by the way.
Self-reported, however, because this is third concussion 3 months, and he continued to play, and you notice how bad he was playing after that, the NFLPA is once again involved and is investigating concussion protocol in that team. And I just want to say this. I know you guys were praising the Dolphins, and I have done my own praising. However, I have not forgotten in my head about Mike McDaniel and the training staff and what they did with Tua, that he got stretchered off the field. And I think
This is not McDaniel. I would blame this on the training staff.
I think the whole Miami training staff needs to be fired at the end of the season.
I agree with you. You can't blame McDaniel. McDaniel gets the data from the training staff. And they've said this many times before. When someone gets hurt, they have to go off the training data. And also, they fired the independent person who.
Yeah, but Nick, one time where he stumbled, and then you brought him back for Thursday.
No. I'm not saying they should have brought him back.
No, hang on. And then again on Sunday, and it basically cost you the game. And now he was in concussion protocol as you're fighting for a playoff. I'm sorry. Every person on that training staff needs to be let go.
I agree with you, because even though
McDaniel should not be fired, but I think he needs to take a little heat for this one.
I agree he needs to take heat, because you could tell by a player's body language if they're not good, or they could be lying to you. But you quickly have to make a decision when they go in and out of the tent, and the medical staff is saying, "All right, he can go back in." You're right. That's on the medical staff. They need to go. And they might need to be declassified as a medical personnel, because they obviously can't do their job properly.
Mhm.
You're not. How do you allow someone who could be potentially making millions of dollars from going out on the field and possibly, Tom, I think you said it when he went back in the first time, like possibly killing himself out on the field?
And this is going to sound really rough to say, because we were talking right before we started recording about all these different quarterback moves and who fits where and who can go in free agency. I think Tua and Kenny Pickett of Pittsburgh need to sit down, because Kenny Pickett was also in concussion protocol multiple times.
Kenny Pickett. I just want.
Sorry, those two need to sit down and have long conversations with their friends and family about their future and if they should continue to play in this league.
The thing with Kenny Pickett, which is interesting, which is a little bit of a different scenario, is that they put Kenny Pickett back in the game, but the difference is Kenny Pickett pulled himself out of the game and said, "I don't feel right." Mm-hmm. So that's on the whole Pittsburgh team in general for not noticing it.
Correct. But my point is, I think Tua and Kenny Pickett, their futures in this league might not be for long. And not of their fault, but that their safety as human beings is much more important of what happens on this football field.
Yeah, I mean, there's many more opportunities. You go into media, broadcasting, whatever. Tough one.
So with all that in mind, Tom, what do you have for this?
That's why, and I hate saying it, and I know people don't want to talk about it because the hoodie and the Patriots side should be dead and whatnot. But that is why, in good faith, I cannot pick the Dolphins this week. Take the money.
Interesting.
Nick?
I mean, I'm on the same boat. I think without Tua, in my opinion, without Tua, they don't win.
I love Teddy Bridgewater, but just considering karma and all this, I can't pick the Dolphins.
Well, I just think the team plays different, operates different under Teddy than they do under Tua.
Yeah, and the Dolphins always have the edge over the Patriots when it comes to playing in Florida. Not every time in Foxborough, though.
Hank, what do you think?
This is a tough one, because I really like overall, if you really look at the team as a whole, I think the Dolphins are definitely better.
Better team.
And not to mention, I think I've told you guys numerous times that I think Bill is probably past his expiration date as a coach, and that I think he should be canned. Like, I'm sorry, but you cannot tell me that like him hiring a terrible coaching staff doesn't mean that like he's not past his expiration date. It totally is.
Yeah, but we all know that Belichick could coach for the next 10 years. They won't do anything to him.
Oh, okay. So here's
But
Hank and Johnny. I want you guys to make your picks because after that, I do have one other thing. It's not a big news story. It's a rumor that has started.
Okay.
That I will talk about.
Sorry, I was just about to get to what I'm saying. That being said, the Dolphins are a much, much different team without Teddy Bridgewater, or Tua, rather. Even though Bridgewater's decent, it's like you think you're going to have something good, but he's basically the Applebee's of quarterbacks. So give me the Patriots.
I pretty much echo what Nick and Hank said. The Dolphins are a much different team without Tua. And don't get me wrong, the more talented team are the Dolphins, but they are run so differently when Tua's not there that I think the only play in the spot has to be the Patriots. So it's going to be a clean sweep for all of us. And I will just say one thing. I want to give you a fun fact here. No team in NFL history has ever made the playoffs after going 0-4 or 0-5 in the month of December. And that's not a fluke. You know how many teams we're talking about? You know how many instances we're talking about? Including and the Dolphins were one of them too. But how many instances? 87. 87 teams have gone 0-4 or 0-5 in December, and none of those 87 teams made the postseason.
I mean, and that's the other thing that would help the Dolphins is the fact that the Patriots are coming off 2 straight weeks of screwing up what should have been wins, especially when Ramador Stevenson involved in both of them. But like you guys said, the Dolphins are just not the same kind of team when they're not playing at home and they're playing in a wintry condition like they will in Foxborough this week and playing with Teddy Bridgewater under helm. Now, you guys brought up the coaching staff about the Patriots. So, as you guys might have seen in news stories, it seems like Mac Jones and Matt Patricia.
I've heard that for a while.
So, now you would think that maybe this is the signs of, okay, maybe Matt Patricia goes. However, and it's very interesting, we're going to be ending the 1 o'clock games with an NFC South matchup. A rumor has been circulating.
And there he is.
There is the rumor mill.
Oops.
There is a rumor that is circulating that Tom Brady may come back for one more season. And if he does so, there's a rumor he will request a trade to return to the New England Patriots.
I don't know. See, I've always been on the mindset if Brady was coming back in that 39-day retirement, this was for more than one season. But I don't know if he wants to go up there to Foxborough.
Miami.
And by the way, to source it, this is coming from the Ringer. This is coming from Bill Simmons. So I don't take it with the greatest of salts, but I'm just thinking of the possibility.
Well, you don't mean it came directly from Bill Simmons, but we don't know exactly who it came from the Ringer.
But my point is, I think, like you would think, okay, Mac Jones, the young developing quarterback, Matt Patricia, who's been a failure of a coach, easy choice would be to Jones, but could they?
But that was a big mistake. Why would Bill give the offensive calling duties to Matt Patricia, who is a failed head coach in Detroit?
Because he's one of his guys.
So?
And I'm not defending it. I'm saying that's probably why.
That's why what Hank said before that Bill's wait 1 second. What Hank said before about Bill's track record not being so great the last 5, 6, 7 years because he's making these boneheaded decisions, but because he's got 6 rings, that no one touches him. He's the king.
And by the way, but that's why I expressed this possibility of maybe Patricia wins out, because the rumor goes on to say if there were such a thing were to happen, it would be a trade, and Mac Jones would be part of the trade. Mac Jones would be sent to Tampa Bay.
Well, we'll see. You know what? One of the first stories that we covered when Game On started last March was about Tom Brady. It would be appropriate if we started year number 2 of Game On with a story about Tom Brady, but we'll find out what happens there. So, but we're all going to agree with this one. Was that?
But we get a good transition now.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, speaking of Brady, we're going to get to him just 1 second. So we're all agree Patriots minus the 3 against the Dolphins. Hank, this is likely for the NFC South title. It's a Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olson, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi special on Fox. It is the Carolina Panthers taking on the aforementioned Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers down there at Raymond James in Tampa, and the Bucs a field goal favorite. Yes, Tom.
All right, ready for this one. If Tampa Bay defeats Carolina, Tampa Bay wins the division, and the Carolina Panthers will be eliminated from playoff contention. If the Buccaneers lose to the Panthers, it comes down to Week 18, and the Panthers would hold the tiebreaker, which would mean if the Bucs lose to the Panthers this week, the Bucs would need to win, and the Panthers would need to lose next week. Otherwise, Tom Brady does not see the playoffs.
Wow.
On that note, Hank, what do you think?
Do you guys know the last time that Tom Brady missed the playoffs was? And I will not accept 2008 as an answer because that was.
I was going to say the season he was injured, but
He still made the playoffs.
Wait, wasn't that the year that Matt Castle was the backup? And
yes, correct.
Yeah, they took him to 11 wins.
that was the one weird backup that actually
they did.
they did.
No, they were 11-5. They missed out because of the tiebreakers.
Oh, the tiebreaker, right?
No, Miami held the tiebreaker, and then Baltimore held the wild called.
11-5 and not making the damn playoffs.
No, the AFC was pretty strong that year. Remember
That's
the Titans
right,
were
yep.
13-3.
And now this year the AFC South champion.
But anyways, you guys know the last
And the
time
NFC
Tom Brady
South,
missed
too.
playoffs.
That's okay. That's fair. NFC South might do. I mean, guys, there is
2002, by the way, is the correct answer.
I was going to say 02. Yep.
20 years ago, essentially.
yeah. You guys,
And that was
you guys
one
saw
of the
my
years it
little-
took a miracle for the Jets to get in the playoffs.
Oh, don't even get me started with the Jets. Yeah.
Hey, we're going to get there.
Back to the second. But you guys saw my little message, right? There is this weird, wild, crazy scenario that has only like a 0.1% chance of happening.
Oh, those are the best scenarios.
There is a chance that there could be 8 teams. But there's one scenario where only 8 teams will be above 500, and 14 teams will have 8-9 records.
Just nuts. Yeah.
What?
It's been that kind of year. You know it? It's absolutely. But as far as this game, Hank, what do you think?
I'm gonna do it. Give me the Panthers. Upset special.
Oh!
Oh boy!
Well, Tom, you brought up when you were bringing up your playoff scenarios. That's the one thing that Carolina has done this year is that they have played well against the NFC South. And I'll tell you what, Hank and I are in agreement here. I'm taking the team that's I'll take it a step further. I am taking the better team in this matchup, and that is the Carolina Panthers plus the 3 against the Buccaneers. You know what? That running game is lethal. Like I mentioned before, when we were picking the Lion game, they ran for over 300 yards against the Lions last week, and I think if there's one way to keep Brady off the field, run it some more. I know the Bucs defense is good, but their offense is a mess. Their offensive line has been in shambles, and it looks like they may be getting some help there, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. I'm not going to say Sam Darnold outduels Brady, but I just think that Panthers team, there's something to them this year, and the Bucs are just a mess. So give me the team that's playing better right now. Carolina Panthers for interim coach Steve Wilkes. Get it done against the Buccaneers.
Could you imagine after all the madness they had earlier this season with firing Matt Rule and releasing Baker Mayfield that the Panthers win this division?
Well, it's funny because I know a few Panther fans obviously now living here in South Carolina, but they were like, oh no, we want to lose out because we want to have a high draft pick and draft a quarterback. Now, with the notion of them possibly being playoff bound, a chance to be playoff bound, their mindset has changed. And it's funny because ever since they traded Christian McCaffrey, I mean, their running game has absolutely taken off, like we mentioned with Deontay Foreman, with Chuba Hubbard. I mean, it's been incredible to watch. And look what they did last week I know it's different going to Tampa, but they've played well against the NFC South. Even some of their losses. I mean, we know that tough loss they had in Atlanta, but it took a late field goal and overtime to do it. I'm gonna. I wish it was 3.5 to be even more confident picking it, but I'm still gonna take the Panthers plus the 3.
Nick Morgasen looked like he completely disagrees.
Oh, that's fine.
How? Really? Tom Brady, and Hank, I'm surprised at you too, because talking about someone who really is a Tom Brady supporter when it comes to these situations.
I didn't say I was a supporter.
Tom Brady almost lost to Trace McSorley on Sunday Night Football last week.
We're talking about a different scenario in a clinching scenario. Tom Brady is one of the best quarterbacks when it comes to a clinching scenario.
Yeah, he's also got his offensive line has been a disaster this year. I know it might be getting some help, but I'm sorry, the Panthers are the better team.
But Tom Brady is one of the better quarterbacks at doing more with nothing than anybody else.
Guys,
that's fair on the receiving side, but not without an offensive line. He's not.
Let's do this.
We're also talking about 45-year-old Tom Brady at this point.
Let's look at Week 18 before we make picks. Let's look at Week 18. Let's see who their opponents are. Week 18, the Panthers' opponent.
It's the Saints.
And the Buccaneers.
That's a gimme. They're both gimmies.
Yeah. So basically, the division will come down to this game. And Johnny,
this game's for the division, pretty much.
So Johnny, I'm actually going to make one counter argument, which may lead me towards Nick Morgasen and the Bucks on this one.
So Nick, you're officially taking the Bucks?
Oh, did I say that? Yeah, I'm taking the money.
Okay. There's one thing in the playoffs there. So both teams are 3-1. So whoever wins is going to finish their division. Oh, not finished it, but 4-1, and will probably finish the best in their division when it comes to divisional play. However, the Panthers, when it comes to their road matchups this season, 1-5. They have struggled on the road.
They're one of the worst road teams in the league.
They are one of the worst road teams in the league, so that's why I'm going to go Bucks. However, if the Panthers are to win this game, there is, just as we were saying, looking at their opponents, there is no shot in hell the Bucks pull off the Week 18 comeback. If they lose, the Bucks are out on this one.
Oh, I'll give you that one. If the Bucks shit the bed and lose, then they're not coming back. Because again, they're not losing to the Saints in Week 18.
I'll go Bucks, but this is a prove me right game because this is must win. This is more must win than it is for the Giants.
But I will say this, one other thing too. J.C. Horn for the Panthers is out, and that hurts their pass defense, but also the run defense for the Bucks without Vita Vea, also something to watch here too in the spot. And Sam Darnold, let's be honest, has not made mistakes. He's played well. It helps his running game's been great, so he hasn't had to make many throws too. So Sam Darnold's been put into a very favorable spot there in Carolina too. Something to watch here. This is going to be one of the better games this week, and that's why Fox's A-team is going to be down there in Tampa for this one. So we'll see what happens between the Panthers and the Bucks. Sorry, Nick. It's a Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez, Laura Oakman special on the NFL on Fox. Right area out west, wrong matchup for you. The San Francisco 49ers take on the Las Vegas Raiders. And so that doesn't only mean it's a Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez, Laura Oakman special. It's a Brock Purdy versus Jared Stidham special from Allegiant Stadium with the 49ers, a 9.5-point road favorite, Hank and Victor.
Are you kidding me? That spread probably isn't big enough. Give me the 49ers.
Yeah,
I don't care who's starting quarterback. You could even put in like 60-something-year-plus-year-old Joe Montana for the 49ers. Will still be
hey, Hank, it could be the mystery box.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't mention much here.
You need to get that as one of your sound bites, Nick.
I was looking into it.
On that one.
Playoff scenario, by the way, or elimination scenario.
Wait, there's actually a playoff scenario from this game?
The Raiders are still alive. A win will keep them alive. A loss Bye-bye.
God, I mean, the way I look at this game, the Raiders are a dumpster fire. We already knew that. But now that you have Derek Carr out of the picture, won't even show up for the last 2 games, basically said, I don't want to be a distraction to this team, which basically means there's a divorce coming in the near future. That
Either he's gonna be traded or released, which, by the way, if you saw media comments after that news,
I did. Yep.
Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, both pretty PO'd.
So remember how I said I have some weird scenarios here?
Oh,
So,
say it.
so,
I think
so
I know what
well,
you're-
wait. Number one, I'm taking the money, and on top of that, this is my lock for the Niners.
This was the other game I was considering for my lock, but then the line jumped, and I said,
But here's weird scenario, and I'll give a game show reference. Here's behind door number 2. So,
Yes, I love it.
so Aaron Rodgers will be the next quarterback of the Raiders.
"Oh my god!"
Okay, we all know Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be there with Green Bay.
But they signed the contract. They signed the extension. And by the way, Aaron Rodgers has nobody to blame, and Aaron Rodgers and the Packers have nobody to blame but themselves that Devontae Adams is out of there. They knew. All those sides knew that once Aaron Rodgers signed that mega extension, Devontae Adams was going to have to go for cap reasons.
If they miss the playoffs, then I think they're going to trade him. That's my gut, and I think he's going to end up in a Raider uniform because I think he wants to be back with Devontae Adams.
I'm just trying to see. So I gave you the. So Tom, did you say you're taking the?
You know what? Yeah, I'll take the money on this one.
So it's going to be a clean sweep. I'm just trying to see here. Let's just say worst case scenario, there are injuries in this game, or somebody has to go out for a play. The backup, the backup matchup. So I know for the Raiders, if Jared Stidham goes out, it would be Chase Garbers at bat for the Raiders. I don't know who it is for the Niners. Is it Easton? Is it
I think it's Easton. Yeah.
Is it Jacob Easton? I'm just trying to remember there.
Jacob Easton and Charbers?
I mean, wait a minute. Oh, what the?
I know. I saw Schefter tweeted that the other day that Chase Garbers is going to be the backup because, like you said, Derek Carr is inactive for the rest of the season.
Johnny, again.
I mean, my God. Wait a minute. I feel like I'm on something. Wait a minute.
Stay off the weed.
Oh man! If there's anything this week that this Football Friday segment has showed you this week, it's these quarterback matchups are just absolutely amazing.
Oh, they make you feel like you're on weed?
Well,
so I have one more question before we move on to the next matchup.
The next game, yep.
Speaking of, this is going to be another one with a good transition. So, Damon Martin is somebody I follow in the MMA sphere. He writes for MMA Fighting, writes for a couple of different, I think, comic sites. He had an interesting scenario, an interesting question. Could you see? Now, I know we expressed Carr potentially being the new starting quarterback with Indianapolis next season in their little veteran quarterback carousel that they've constantly been on. With the quarterback situations on both of our beloved New York teams, could you see the Giants or Jets? And I will say specifically the Jets, since Zach Wilson seems to be on the outs and outs with the latest reports from, what's his name from Fox?
Jay Glazer?
Jay Glazer.
And Bill Cleveland. Could you see if the Jets decide to go veteran quarterback, the Jets sweeping in and taking up Derek Carr? Or if the Giants want to go in a different direction?
Let me, as a Giant fan, the only thing I'm going to answer in this way. The one thing that all these quarterback movements have been happening, and it makes me a little bit worried, because I think Daniel Jones is good enough to stay as the Giant quarterback. But the thing that concerns me now is some team maybe drives up the price for Daniel Jones, and maybe prices possibly the Giants out of it. Couldn't you see somebody maybe overpaying to try and get Daniel Jones in there? I'm hoping not, because I think Daniel Jones is still good enough to be there for the Giants next season going forward. You're seeing that this year. Look, he played well enough again last week against the Vikings. So I think it's possible. I think for the Jets, I think there's a veteran that's certainly in play for them because I'll say this. As much as Mike White, as well as he's done and he's doing it right, there's one problem I have with White. And you have to be fair with his. His durability is a major question mark. You know, he's only played, 6 games, and he's had two significant injuries already.
Although, Johnny, you could say the same about Derek Carr. He has a bit of an injury history as well.
Well, that's the thing you have to look at if you're the Jets here. If you want to indeed, if that report from Glazer is right, and you do want to move on from Wilson. But Nick, you're the Jet fan here. What do you think about that?
Well, I just want to say one thing about Jones, which is the only team that I can think of off the top of my head right now, if they really wanted Daniel Jones, was going to overpay, is the Saints. That's the only team I can really think of at this point. If they really want to make a move, and they'll overpay for Daniel Jones, if that's what the scenario they're looking at.
That's a choice with Kamara.
But to go with Wilson, Zach Wilson has been a dumpster fire from the time he stepped into the organization and can't figure it out. He can't talk to the media. He can't compose himself. He can't throw the football. Last time I checked as a quarterback, you need to know how to throw the football. And he can't do that. He can't run the football. He can't throw the football. He can't hit a target.
I will say, as much as I've been saying, okay, this is just an off year with Daniel Jones because now the Jets, with their positioning, need to focus more on.
He can put the ball in the air, though.
Wait, Nick. This is actually a chance for me to defend you, and I'm supporting you on this.
No. I was saying Daniel Jones can at least put the ball in the air. That's what I was saying.
That wasn't the take I was going to go on. Nick.
Oh, okay.
My take was that all this time I've been agreeing with you on Zach Wilson because I've been saying with how the Jets are positioned, chasing for a playoff spot, this should be more of a focus on chasing that than a year of development for Zach. However, that Week 16 game showed me he is not developed one bit. And that is, I think, more importantly, as much as that Week 16 game was probably a death blow to the Jets' playoff chances, I think that was even more of a bigger death blow to Zach Wilson's career in New York and potentially in the National Football League.
See, the weird thing is, and try to follow my logic partially here, Zach Wilson kind of reminds me of Jay Cutler with his attitude, where Jay Cutler had the ego and the attitude and didn't care what coaches had to say. Now, I know he could throw the football, he could lead a team, but his attitude costed him from really leading a team to a longer playoff run and possibly winning.
Well, that was going to be my next point. So do you remember what during the preseason, I said, well, with the Giants and Jets' easy schedule, the risk that they run is they potentially ruin their draft position. That's the only thing with the Jets, that now they may not get one of these young quarterbacks in this.
The Jets are too deep at this point.
That means the Jets may not have a choice but to take a short-term contract on a veteran QB, which means.
Well, that was going to be my other. That was going to be my other take. I think the Jets really need to go after Derek Carr. Derek Carr needs a change of scenery. I think Derek Carr would actually fit in that system. You have a great running back. You have great wide receivers on this Jet team now. Derek Carr can air the football out. I think you need to go away from the ground and pound. It has not worked since Rex Ryan was a coach in 2010. Now, I know they won 2 AFC championships, but it doesn't win football games. You have to throw the damn football.
Now, that was also going to lead to my other point on the Giants side, which is, yeah, I think Danny's played well enough to at least get another contract. However, I think what this season has showed is that Daniel's not the issue. And if you're going to bring Daniel back, even if you're not Daniel's biggest fan, the one defense that you can make of him that was highlighted this season, you need receivers. Now, I know all the talk that we talked about with, I know we made fun of Nick Federa a lot with the Odell thing, but I kind of want to echo a bit of his sentiment. And I think not in the direction of Odell, but in the direction that you said last week, Johnny, when we were all together. The Giants need a specific type of receiver. They need a playmaker. They need a superstar, somebody who can make these extreme catches so Danny can throw it deep, which is why I bring up the Raiders in New York. Could you see if Devontae requests a trade? Could Devontae end up in a Giant or Jet uniform?
That's not the name. I have another one, which I said.
No, because the one other thing I also say too, Tom, is one thing I've been very consistent on, Giants can't go all in on just one player. Like, I'm not saying Odell, I'm not saying Devontae Adams. They've got guys. I mean, I'd still bring in other pieces, but that's why I think if you're the Giants, here's what I think they're going to do. I think Daniel Jones is coming back. I think Saquon's only coming back on the franchise tag. And I don't know what the franchise tag is for running backs, but I think that's the only way he comes back. The Giants are still an up-and-up organization. I don't think they're one player away from taking over the top. I think they're doing this the right way. I think Wan'Dale Robinson actually had that potential because he was actually playing well enough before he got that torn ACL against the Lions.
But I think you do need to. But now, granted, with the kind of contract Devontae has and the pieces that you'd have to give up, because you're probably giving up your first rounder this year, you might
I
be
wouldn't
giving
do
up
that.
Dexter Lawrence. I don't see it happening. I'm just saying, you need somebody who's going to allow Daniel Jones to throw it deep like he can. You need somebody to use Daniel to his full ability. Now, is the answer one of these wide receivers that's going to be available in free agency? Is the answer going to be one of these guys in the first, second, third round of the draft? I don't know.
Well, let me throw another scenario in there, and I said this for a potential star receiver opportunity many weeks ago. I think they should trade for Hopkins.
I don't know. See, if I'm the Giants, I don't know if I want to be making any trades though.
But I think that's your better op than Devontae Adams. First of all, Devontae Adams is going to be on the hook for more money than Hopkins is.
Yeah, what is Hopkins up for? But I mean, one thing you've even noticed here too, and I don't know if I think it's too early to say if he's a top guy.
I think he wants
Hodgins, Hodgins has been playing well these last couple of weeks too, and I don't know if he's a number one receiver. I'm not saying that, but he's definitely played well enough. So we'll
Johnny,
see.
One last thing before we move on. I know I'm wasting a lot of time talking about Giants and
That's
Jets,
okay.
but I guess with
It's
all
important.
the craziness, with all the craziness of the news stories, it's stuff we got to talk about. So here's the list of free agents. Now, granted, I don't know about tags and whatnot. Here's going to be the free agents available for receivers for both the Giants and Jets' sake: Aguilar, Sterling Shepard, DJ Chark, Randall Cobb, Marvin Jones, Julio Jones, Byron Pringle, Alan Lazard, Jacoby Myers, Juju, AJ Green, Jarvis Landry, and Kilharry, Mac Hollins, Jamison Crowder, Sammy Watkins.
A lot of veteran guys
don't
on that list.
I was gonna say, Johnny, don't shoot me on this, but that DJ Chark. I kind of like the idea of DJ
I
Chark
like
being
DJ
thrown to
Chark
by
from Detroit. Absolutely, Tom. You and I are sharing a brain on that. And he's probably the most inexperienced guy out of that list. Probably the guy you've not even heard of. I know that from watching a lot of Lions football this year, and that would be an interesting guy to get. Because again, you know what? I don't think he's going to demand a lot. He's a depth piece for the Giants, and I think that's what they need right now too.
Johnny, let's see if you give me DJ. Give me either. I don't know if I would say because of the headaches, but I wouldn't mind Marvin Jones, and just at least for a veteran locker room presence. And right now he doesn't have a lot of command. Julio Jones may not be a bad idea.
I'm not really sold on that. Hank, real quick, I know you're my fellow Giant fan too. What do you think?
DJ Chark is the primary piece. As long as you get
That'd
DJ
be
Chark,
nice.
I think that's a good target.
If you get a DJ Chark, that's nice, but Julio Jones, that's certainly not.
I said I kind of regret that one. What about Marvin?
That's okay.
Chark,
maybe.
Marvin.
There's some options out there, but I think the Giants are right now doing this the right way. So that's what I would.
Listen, yeah, I'm with Johnny. I'm gonna trust what Joe Shane does at this point.
Trust Joe when in doubt, and also trust Brian Dable, who, by the way, should be Coach of the Year in that one. Nick, your New York Football Jets are in Seattle to take on your former buddy Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks, and the Jets are a 1.5 point road favorite.
I'm not your buddy, guy.
Was Vegas drunk making this line?
No.
I really think they were. The Jets being favored in any game is insane. I think I've been on the record, though, for many weeks saying that the Seahawks have been out of gas, and Geno Smith has finally come back down to earth, even though he will be comeback player of the year. Unless you guys have any other player that would be comeback player of the year.
Here's the thing. Okay, I'll throw this question: Giants make the playoffs and Seahawks lose out and miss. Do you give it to Saquon instead of Geno?
No, Geno's come out of nowhere. I mean, we were laughing. I remember when we did the football preview show, we were laughing at the notion of Geno Smith starting.
That's true.
Seahawks.
That's true.
He got the job over Drew Lock.
Yeah. But
I mean, the Jets have to win. If they have to win both games.
Actually, sorry. I think loser of this is out. I have to double check, but I think
it's an elimination game for the Jets. I know that for a fact.
No, I know if the Jets lose, they're out, but I think if the Seattle loses, they're out too.
I don't know. Something tells me. I mean, thank God Zach Wilson's not starting, because if I had to worry about that in an elimination game, I would have just said Seattle right away.
So Jets lose, they're out. Seattle loses and Commanders win. Seahawks out.
So they still technically have a scenario where they could be alive.
As long as that depends on what Washington does in the 1 o'clock window.
I think Washington's going to win, so that might be a hamper.
So this might be an elimination game purely.
I don't know. I mean, I'm happy Mike White is starting again. I've been on the Mike White train. I think his teammates have been on the Mike White Express also. As you noticed, they seem to like him over Zach Wilson. They've lost, 4 in a row?
Yes.
Does the momentum change? That's a tough call. Now, maybe they play harder because they know the situation in Miami with Tua being out. Maybe that gives them a little more juice to go out and win. I'm very back and forth at the moment, but you know what? I'm going to do the bias fan thing. Jets cover. I'll change my mind here. I was originally going to take Seattle. I'm going to take. They have to win.
Doc, knowing you,
Nick, I'm gonna convince you. I am taking the Jets to win and cover this one for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think the Mike White to Garrett Wilson connection is going to.
It is good
in this spot because the Seahawks pass defense is not good. They are struggling down the stretch. The Jet defense is, I think, going to give Geno Smith a hard time here. Now, the one thing I want to see the Jets defense do here, and I mentioned this last week when we did the pick segment, is I want to see the Jets defense take the next step and start forcing some turnovers. Because while they are a good defense for the most part, it seems to be the one thing they're struggling with this year is forcing turnovers. So, and we all know that Geno's been struggling here down the stretch. I think Nick's used a great phrase here that he's been gassed. The Mike White to Garrett Wilson connection here. You know what? I'll borrow Tom's phrase here too. If you're in fantasy and you've got Garrett Wilson, I think he's going to help you this week in the fantasy playoffs. Jets win and cover. I'm only laying 1.5 in Seattle. The 12th man in Seattle is not what it used to be. I think that makes no difference in this spot. I'm going to take the Jets to win and cover. And by the way, forgot to mention this, is a Chris Myers, Robert Smith, and the great Jen Hale special on the NFL on Fox. Jets win and cover in Seattle. That's my play. Hank?
Yeah, you know what? I have a funny feeling about this game. I think the Jets somehow are getting new life and maybe false hope because of the Tua Tagovailoa injury, but I just can't see Geno Smith getting the trifecta against his revenge tour. So give me the Jets.
All right, you know what? You're all going with the Jets, and you know what? I guess it would be more of typical Jets fashion if their hearts were broken and missed the playoffs in week 18 and not 17. And like you said, Nick, Geno Smith and the Seahawks are just
flying down the mountain,
down in flames. So you know what? I'll agree. Let's clean sweep this one. Take the money.
Clean sweep. The Jets over the Seahawks to keep their playoff alive. Hank, it's a Spiro Ditas Jay Feely special on the NFL and CBS. It's the Battle of Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium as Baker Mayfield's Rams take on Justin Herbert's Chargers, and the Chargers are 6.5-point favorites.
Rams on this one are completely out. I don't think the Chargers can do much moving when it comes to the Chiefs have the division, so they're going to be a wild card. Yeah, I'm trying to look up
for the Chargers. They've clinched the spot already.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think whoever wins the AFC North might have the 5 seed. So they might be locked into the 6th seed at this point, the Chargers.
I'm gonna go with the Chargers, even though I don't necessarily like the idea of them being favored by 6.5. I don't care that it's against the Rams. I don't know. I just think that line's pretty big, but the Chargers got in because, that's just how the playoffs work. It had more to do with the rest of the league. I would say.
Just a fair warning. Can we not watch Brandon Staley doing warm-up exercises on the sideline? Did anyone see that?
How about we not watch him influence the Chargers and maybe get Justin Herbert a real coach?
Let's just guys celebrate the fact that Justin Herbert is actually going to be playing a playoff game. Freaking well deserved.
And
yeah.
Oh, sorry, Nick.
No, I was just going to say, I think this is pretty easy. The Rams are a dumpster fire, falling apart. I'm 6.5 is definitely. I think it's not big enough. Take the money.
Tom, you did too, right?
I think it's one of you says it's too big, one of you says it's not big enough. I think just about right. Take the money.
Less than a touchdown is a little bit more comfortable, but do I be the lone wolf
with the Rams?
I'm not going to do it. You know what? The thing would be, they scored 51 points last week, but this is a step up in competition. The Chargers, the one thing you notice with them, they're getting healthier as the season goes on, which not many teams do. Joey Bosa may be close. Bosa may be close to coming back. I think, boy, I'll tell you, if they're fully healthy, the Rams, I think they are a dangerous team to watch out for. As I've said throughout, the thing you worry about is the coaching. But I think the Rams get it done here too. They win and cover, and I'm only asking them to win by a touchdown. So I think they get it done here. Chargers win and cover. It's a clean sweep in the Battle of Los Angeles on Sunday. This is a big one here in the NFC North, guys. It's a Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson special on the NFL and CBS. It is Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings taking on Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Nick, I know we were talking about this before. I'm going to you here first because it's the Packers, a 3.5-point home favorite at Lambeau Field.
Now, we already know that the Packers have more to play for than the Vikings. The Vikings are already in. They pretty much, clinched in week 12, essentially. We already knew they were.
They clinched the North around Thanksgiving time. I think it was week 14, actually. How they need a win to keep up with, if the Eagles win, the Eagles have the number 1 seed. So that's going to take care of that. But they need a win just in case the Eagles lose to keep up with them for the number 1 seed. And they need a win so that way, even if they don't get the number 1, they can at least outpace San Fran for the 2 seed.
I mean,
the Packers need a win, I think, to keep their playoff hopes alive.
They have to win out the last 2 games to get in. That's if they lose this week or they lose against the Lions, they're out. So I don't understand this line. I know it's in Lambeau, but Lambeau hasn't exactly been the automatic win for Green Bay this year. Just ask the Jets, who went into Lambeau and actually almost demolished them.
Yep.
So I think the Vikings are going to come out and actually play much better. I think Justin Jefferson's going to put on a show because I don't think the Packers' defense is as good as it is. I'm taking the upset special. I think the Vikings are going to win.
Oh, Nick, you fell into the Vegas trap.
No, I didn't.
No,
I
sure did.
No, I did not.
Take Minnesota.
What? No,
they're
not.
begging you to take Minnesota with this
No.
line. They did that. They did that against the Lions before. I didn't.
The Packers are not good.
Oh, I think they're going to feast against this Vikings pass.
Oh,
defense.
stop.
I absolutely do. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a field day here. The Packers are a different team than they were when they played your Jets earlier in the year. They're different than when they played the Vikings earlier in the season. And I'll say this again. There is a reason why the Vikings have only a +5 point differential this season. Vegas is going to beg for you to take the Vikings. So I am going to take the Packers to win and cover here. And as a result, the Vikings are going to go back into the red for the season after this game.
I love the Jeopardy reference there.
It's my turn to use the game show reference here. Yep. So give me the Packers minus the 3.5.
Also, by the way, let me ask you, who wanted to kick that field goal? Johnny, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's true. I know the 61
you want to know the crazy part?
What?
The third time it's happened to them.
Nick, are you ready for this? I actually agree with Johnny about this. And the reason I do is because if you look at a lot of Aaron Rodgers teams in the second half of seasons, especially in December, that's usually when they go on a streak when you least expect it. And make no mistake, I think the Packers are an absolutely flawed team. So, Nick, in that sense, I do not disagree with you. But you look at the Minnesota Vikings, I've taken the bait the last few times that they were favored to win games, or they were underdogs, even though they really shouldn't have been based on their records. I'm not making that same mistake again. And if we're being honest, the Minnesota Vikings record of 12-3 is one of the most deceptive in the history of the NFL. And I'm being dead serious. Like, they've won a lot of games that really they shouldn't have. And that +5 pointage threshold.
Are you talking about, wait a minute. Are you talking about because they've won 7 or 8 games, the most in the NFL, by one possession?
Yes, and if the Giants were a few mistakes away from pulling off that upset in Minnesota too. Let's not forget.
I'm not. And just to be fair, I'm not discrediting Minnesota.
And imagine if that fumble doesn't happen in Buffalo.
Correct. That's true. That is true. And also, Johnny, now I disagree with the notion of the Vikings being frauds. They are a good team. However,
they're solid. I just don't think they're 12-3 good.
Well, here's gonna be. There's always that one or two games where the Vikings kick their fancy, and this one might be it.
Now,
they might lose the number 3 seed to San Francisco this week because of.
Now, I do say this in wishing
2 or 3.
I mean, the number 2 seed. They may switch 2 and 3 with San. Like San Fran may secure the 2 after this week because of it.
I wish this game came down to 2.5. I'd be more comfortable with that, but because now I'm asking them to win by more than a field goal. I mean, if the Packers win by 6, the Vikings are back in the red, but I'm going to just keep going to that.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers does not look great. I know, like, they've won games, but it's not all because of him.
No, that's fair, but I mean, their offenses looked better, though, these last several weeks, though. I mean, Christian Watson's been a big spark. They actually are getting some guys back. Look, the best receiver, the best player on the field, I'm not going to lie with you, the best player is on Minnesota. I mean, Justin Jefferson is a stud. There's no question about it.
He has to win Offensive Player of the Year this year. He has.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. But there's I just feel like this is one of those games that, we saw it against Detroit, and I think this is going to be the case here too. And the fact that this game's in Lambeau is a different story here. So Green Bay win and cover.
So, by the way,
Tom, what are you doing?
Okay. A couple of things. I just looked it up. Since the Vikings and 49ers never played head-to-head this season, the tiebreaker would go to whoever has the best conference record. And right now,
that would have to be Minnesota. Oh, it's the Miners?
The Niners have the edge in that. Which means if the Vikings lose this week and we predicted the Niners to win, the Vikings would have to win next week and the Niners lose to the Cardinals next week for the Vikings to get back the 2 seed. So
now that's an interesting tiebreaker.
There is a distinct, real possibility that what we saw last week, the hell of a game between the Giants and Vikings, that could be a wild card game. That could be a wild card game. Wild card round. And also the other thing, actually, with a loss, just solely a loss, the Packers are technically not out.
I thought I read that they had to win both games.
It has to be a loss to the Vikings, coupled with either a Lions win or a Commanders win.
That's asking a lot.
That's true. So here's what I'm gonna. However, and this is speaking as somebody that is a big Vikings fan who supports the Vikings as their other team besides the beloved Giants. I'm waiting for the dick punching to begin. I think it happens this week. Give me the Packers. Take the money.
So Nick's going to be the lone wolf at Lambeau Field in this NFC North matchup. It's Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, and Melissa Stark on Sunday Night Football on NBC as the Pittsburgh Steelers take on the Baltimore Ravens. Now, we still don't know if it's going to be Tyler Huntley or if it's going to be Lamar Jackson back there in Baltimore for this one.
Doesn't matter.
Well, Nick, on that note, the Ravens are laying 2.5 points.
And we have a simple playoff scenario. It's very simple.
Ravens win.
Well, actually, I don't know the Steelers one. Let me look at the Steelers one. The Steelers one is a loss to the Ravens here does not automatically eliminate the Steelers. However, if they lose to the Ravens, and earlier in the day either the Jets or Patriots win their matchup, the Steelers are out. For the Ravens, very simple. If they win, then next week is Ravens versus Bengals for the AFC North Division. The loser of that game would be the top wild card. If the Ravens lose, the Cincinnati Bengals are your AFC North champions.
Yeah, this is not even a thought in my mind. The Steelers, their quarterback situation is bad. We talked about Pickett already, the concussion issues, which means I don't know who the backup
But the
is.
Steelers have been playing well in December, at least in terms of the record.
They have, but I think the Ravens are a mismatch against the Steelers. I just think they have been, and I know Johnny, you've been up and down on the offensive line and also their defense from time to time, but this is really easy. Ravens take the money. It's not even a thought process for me here.
This is going to be, well, I think the only thing I can guarantee with this game is that it's going to be a very low scoring game. That's, I think, where I'm comfortable, and that's where it's going to end, because these two teams are the top two rush defenses in the second half of the season. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be, we don't know if it's going to be Lamar or Tyler Huntley, because I think Pittsburgh will have the opportunity to generate more yards if Huntley starts. But the line is so low that I'm going to take Baltimore by a field goal.
Do you want to know what the combo is? Because I'm looking at it.
What is the over-under?
35.
Yeah, that sounds about right, but I think it's even going to be less than that.
I think it's going to be under 35. If that's
that's about right though for an over/under play.
That's
here.
Combined between the two.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking something like 16-13. That would be 29, but
that's not too far out of the
I'm going to take
reach.
the Ravens though, minus the 2.5, and because they're laying less than a field goal.
Who?
Hank?
I'm going to take the Ravens. It's going to be a very close game, but that's another team I'm not really confident in going to the playoffs.
And Tom?
Yeah, I would. I'd kind of stay away from this game at least till we get an answer on that quarterback situation. If Lamar is playing, there's no question Ravens are winning. Huntley is a little more questionable, but I'll still take, with that low of a line, I still take Ravens win, and just if only just for the simple, madness of Week 18, and that's why, Johnny, I've been on your train of Titans versus Jaguars Week 18 win or go home game for the division on Sunday night. I don't know. They might put Titans versus Jags for the division on Saturday and put Ravens for the second straight week, just because Ravens Bengals for a division might be more of an enticing matchup.
And that'd be fine too, because now remember, I believe there's 2 games next Saturday.
Yeah,
and then everybody else will play on.
As long as the Ravens win this matchup, one of those 2 games is going to be played Saturday prime time, 8:20. The other one will be the Sunday night football game.
I mean, think about next week. If that's the case, you have that Saturday night game, you have that Sunday night game, and then you have the national championship in college football on Monday. I mean, it's a heck of a weekend. I mean, it's a heck of a sports weekend this weekend to wrap up 2022 and bring in 2023, which I'll get to in just a second after we pick the Monday night game, which I'm going to try and catch my breath here because this is going to be a long one. Probably in the game of the week. That's what I would say it is. It's a Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salter special on ESPN, although this game may start on ABC or ESPN2 if the Rose Bowl runs long. All right. So that's what it is. It's a Buck Aikman Salter special as the Buffalo Bills take on the Cincinnati Bengals, arguably the game of the week with 2 of the best teams in the NFL set to face off against each other. And Vegas proves that as the Bills are a 1-point favorite. Tom, go for it.
This is a tough one.
It's a pick'em.
It's a true pick'em, and it should be a pick'em. You have the Bills, who are by far one of the best, if not the best team in the National Football League. And then you have the Bengals. The Bengals had their questions very early on in the season. They definitely had their questions very early on. However, they have definitely shown that they still have it. By the way, Buffalo win, as I said, established earlier, does not necessarily clinch them the number 1 seed. They will need Kansas City to lose as well. Otherwise, well, I mean, let's face it, they're playing Broncos country. Let's ride. That's not happening. The AFC, the AFC number 1 is going down to week 18.
Wow.
So wait, so you're taking who?
I don't know. Well, here's gonna be my question.
Are you disrespecting the
I was gonna say,
Bengals?
wait, are you going to do it?
You guys are begging me to say it. I don't know if I would go that far, though. But I do have a question about Josh Allen's arm. I know there are questions about his, I think it's his elbow that he's having issues with.
Elbow. Yeah.
But the running game over in Buffalo has been doing very well. I think James Cook, Dalvin's brother, last week is showing that, once Singletary and company, Nyheim Hines are out of the picture, that might become James Cook's backfield for a little while.
By the way, I don't know if this helps you at all,
Yeah.
but the over-under is 49.5 combined.
I would take the over. I think this one's going to be a high-scoring game.
We'll see.
I'm going to disrespect the Bengals, however. Take the money.
Oh! So you're taking the money on that one. Yeah, this is an interesting matchup. Like we said, there's questions on Josh Allen, but there's also questions on the Bengals side. Who's healthy? Is everyone ready to go? Is Joe Burrow going to come to play? By the way, I believe in some of the scenarios I heard that if Joe Burrow actually steps up and beats the Bills, I think you have to consider him as a possible MVP candidate for this year. I think he goes above Jalen Hurts if he beats the Bills this week. So that's where I see that scenario. But at the same time, who has more to play for? I think the Bengals have more to play for than the Bills do, right?
No, because if all that matters for this week for the AFC North is the Ravens.
But I just meant in general. Like, they have to push harder, the Bengals, I think, to really... Because we all had the Bills as basically a favorite to win the Super Bowl all year.
Correct. But the number 1 seed's not locked up yet.
I still think the Bills are a heavy favorite. I mean, I know it's a 1-point game. It will be close all game, but I'm going to take the Bills to cover.
Hank, weren't you the one that mentioned about Burrow being MVP?
Yes, and I stand by that. I still stand by that. I didn't say he should directly, but I think more consideration should be given to Joe Burrow.
Right.
But regardless, I still stand by that. And I don't know that I want to say I'm disrespecting the Bengals more so than I'm just like riding with the hot hand in the Bills, because let's face it, you guys know I've been very high on the Buffalo Bills, and I'm still extremely confident in their chances in possibly winning the whole Super Bowl. So I'm going to take the Bills in this one. But that being said, the Bengals give them a lot of problems.
So I think when you look at this from a playoff matchup, guys, the loser of this game is probably going to have to go win a game on the road in the playoffs. So that's what makes this game
not necessarily. I mean, the Bills, even if they're the number 2 seed, they're going to have home field until.
Well, the thing with that though would be is if you do have a Bills-Bengals possibly rematch, then that game would be in Cincinnati.
But wait, no. But aren't the Bills, wouldn't they just be the number 2 seed?
Well, if you're saying if it could be a 1-2 or anyway, besides that, it looks like maybe the loser might have to go play a game on the road. That's what I'm thinking about.
Oh, the Bengals are hang on. The Bengals are 11-4. The Bills are 12-3. Actually, no. If the Bengals pull off the upset, both 12-4, that's where things are going to get interesting. I apologize, Johnny. You're right.
So we'll see, but I think you guys have documented before. The Bills being the better run team here, I think, is a big deal. The one area I would look at with the Bengals that I think they do have the strength is I think they have just the receivers in Chase, Boyd, and Higgins that could hurt the Bills where they're the weakest, and that is that cornerback. But at the end of the day, I think I trust the Bills' defense, their pass rush a little bit more. And again, that line, I think, proves that you're pretty much doing a pick 'em in this spot. I think we're going to do a clean sweep here. I'm going to take the Bills over the Bengals on Monday night to wrap up the week number 17 and usher in a new year here in 2023 in the NFL. Well, this is quite the weekend if you're a sports fan. Now, obviously, week 17 in the NFL, the 2 college football playoff semifinals, both happening on New Year's Eve. On Monday, you've got the Rose Bowl game. You've got the Winter Classic in hockey. So there's going to be so much to document, and then it's good to be back on. Hank and I will be back for Game On episode 37 coming up on Tuesday. Nick and Tom will be back on Empty the Bench this week on
Season
Wednesday.
premiere.
What's that?
Season premiere.
Season premiere. Yep. Absolutely. Our 2023 premieres. And then we'll have one more regular season football Friday coming up next week as well. And then we will be into the postseason. So it is such a fun time of the year.
I mean, I think Tom and I have discussed possibly doing the wild card game maybe for the ESPN game. We talked about it. We had talked about it.
So stay tuned for that.
We haven't figured it out yet. We talked about it like earlier on in the year, possibly doing a live stream, possibly.
Interesting. Okay. So best thing to do for that, folks, is, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ETB Network. Follow us across all of our social media platforms at Game On ETB, at ETB Sports for the Empty the Bench Network, Game On ETB for us, ETB Network, all that stuff. And that you'll find all of our links as well. So much happening. Hank and I will see you back on Tuesday. Tom and Nick on Wednesday. Back again for our football picks next week as well. So for Tom Albano, Nick Morgasen, Hank Indictor, I'm Johnny Montalbano. Happy New Year, everybody. Enjoy your football weekend, and we'll talk to you again next week.